This is a video I've been wanting to do for a while, basically just talking about redrawing the beginning of your comic or your webcomic and if it's worth it or not, and then to show the details of the things I changed in mine. I think it's definitely worth it if you've improved enough over time, and if you're not happy with the way your comic looks right now. Mine is from 2012, the beginning. I redrew it in 2021, so I improved a lot. You don't have to wait that long, but I think if you've improved enough, it's more worth it. And you can take the opportunity to add some things to your story flow and to help develop your characters a little bit better. Mine was in black and white. It was in the manga style, and as you can see, the artwork wasn't the best, and I had to change it because it always bothered me so much. I couldn't take the later chapters seriously because of it, and I was afraid it was turning people off, whoever was new readers, if they saw the artwork and then got turned away just because of the art. That would have made me sad. So by redrawing it, I thought, well, people can see what it's going to potentially become. So here it's in the manga style, and there was a lot more panels per page. I changed it to be colored, and it's more of a webtoon style now. Overall, this is pretty much the same. I just stretched this page out into 2 pages, and I tried to keep most of it as similar as I could. If you change it too much, then it's going to affect the later story. So here's the part where she starts school. I actually traced a lot of the backgrounds from the old version because I think my backgrounds were actually not bad. I made them bigger and I traced them with cleaner lines and colored. And you can see already there's a change in the panel. I did a close-up of her eye to show her emotions in that moment. So she is very shy. She's very shy and she's nervous being in front of this classroom. And the panels are basically the same. Here I changed it up so that she still looks shy and she's walking back to her desk. And right here she's smiling. Then we show time passing. Here I used the clock here to show that in comparison to before where it just goes to her sitting at her desk. And so time is passing during class and she's looking out the window, and you can see she's looking up in the sky at this bird, and it represents her longing for something, longing for freedom. And you can see in her eyes she wants something. She's kind of sad and she looks kind of lonely. Here you don't get any of that, so it's just her looking out the window, and then she looks over at Akuma sitting there. So here I thought I put a lot more emotion in this, and to kind of give some insight on Tenchi's character. And then I used this whole page just for these 2 panels of them looking at each other because it's an important scene. I didn't cram that together with any other panels. And then the close-up of his eye is on a different panel. And here I didn't really like how her face looked, but I changed that to where she's much more disturbed and she's looking away after making eye contact. I had the bell ringing here, just like a close-up. Here it's ringing, but I wanted to get a good look at the outside of the classroom just to kind of get a better idea of the world. It's kind of like world building, so the more that you show, the more you can imagine where they're at. This panel's pretty much the same. This one I actually copied the background again. I just made it bigger, and the characters all had a lot of detail in each of them, even the ones that were far away, so it looked very cluttered before. So I made the background characters silhouettes so it looks more crisp and clean, and then the ones that are closer up you can see the details. Then these 2 panels is where she's trying to find a place to sit for lunch. It's the same, I just made the panels bigger. They actually have food, and Tenchi has her lunch, so that was kind of a continuity error that I had before where she didn't have a lunch. These girls just start talking to her. In this one, I have a close-up of her blushing face, and she's thinking there's really a lot of people in here. So you can really tell that she is not good with people. She's very shy. So that's how she's feeling. And then these girls kind of pay attention to her. And then she's kind of scared to talk to them. And this part's the same, where they're saying antisocial. Then in the original version, she just says, I guess that's one reason for my broken wing. It's not really clear like what exactly she's talking about. Here, I had a close-up of her looking down, and she's thinking she's not antisocial, she's just shy. Like, she feels misunderstood by people, like she doesn't like people or something, but she's just a shy person. And we go into more detail here about her issue, her problem that she needs to overcome, and that's because of my personality. The normal things in life are much harder, so she has a harder time than people who are outgoing. I don't know how to change so that I can fly. So this gives us more information on what her struggle is. She wants to change, but she can't. She doesn't know how. Okay, and then I transitioned in the next panel to her leaving these girls and saying, sorry for bothering you. In the original version, it just cuts to her finding a spot. And then Vera-chan comes in. She meets Vera-chan. She just pops up in the page and says, do you mind if I sit here? In this one, I kind of wanted to have more build-up on that. So she looks up. We don't see Vera-chan at all yet, just her shoulder. And she says, oh, this is where my friends and I usually sit. So this is something I decided to add because her friends come up later in this chapter, and they just kind of appear there. They're not really, there's no build up to them at all. Like, we don't know anything about them, but here she says, oh, this is where my friends and I usually sit. So that's why she's here. She's here because she usually sits here with her friends. Here she just says, do you mind if I sit here? But here she decides to sit here anyways, and then she introduces herself, just like in the original one. And then they kind of have their own little introductions. Tenchi tells her name, and she asks what she likes to do. And that's the same here. I did add an extra panel here, just for the flow of it. She says, oh yeah, you're new here, right? Have you been to the local bookstore yet? And here she doesn't mention anything about her being new, but like I think it makes more sense that she realizes she's a new student, and so she brings up the bookstore. Vera-chan tells her kind of where it is. Yeah, it's in town, not too far from here. Here, she doesn't tell her where it is, and later Tenchi just is able to find it somehow. But in this one, she tells her that, and then her phone goes off and says, it looks like my friends wanted to meet in the classroom today. And that's why she leaves. It's not because she finished eating and then she just decides to leave. So little things like that helped the pacing a lot and helped with things actually making sense. I like that much better. Then on to the next scene, I added the transition panel of the sky, just a little transition. And then we have the school, which looks much better than the previous one, in which I actually used references. But this is also another big change. So here, she leaves the school after school's over. She's just smiling and she's like, I'm gonna go check out the bookstore now. And then she just appears at the bookstore. Here, I wanted to show her emotions, like how she feels after her first day of school. She's sad because she didn't really make friends. She couldn't really talk to people. And so she's feeling sad because of her own personality. And you can see that in her eyes here. And then how she's looking at these people. Everyone is hanging out with someone. They have their group of friends, so she's looking at that. And then she sighs and says, as expected, I could barely talk to anyone today. None of that was present here, so this added a lot to her character right here. Then she says, I think I'll check out the bookstore before I go home because she doesn't have anything else to do. This is also a big change. I added Zachary in there. And this is his first appearance, rather than at the bookstore. which is all the way over here. Later in the story, he does notice her when she's in the classroom, and so this just kind of builds off of that. He noticed her already. He's interested in her, you can see. And I also added the bike. So I took that opportunity to fill in that plot hole too, because he just is at the bookstore already before Tenchi, even though she starts making her way there right when school ends. So the reason why he got there faster is because he has a bike. And then I also added a few more panels for the pacing here. She's walking down the sidewalk. You can see the whole town. She's looking around for the bookstore, and then she finally finds it. Here it just jumps straight from her walking from school all the way to finding the bookstore, which was a big jump. She peeks through the door, and then Zachary's there on the same page. And then you can see the close-up of his face, where he's surprised that she's there because he didn't expect it. That's not present here. He's just saying, hey, you're the new girl in my class. You can't even barely see his expression. So here I added that close-up, and then it goes into the regular dialogue. That was the same. I did make his introduction a bit bigger because it's an important part. He's an important character. That's alright, I wouldn't either. I'm Zachary Valkyrie. That's the same. I added, everyone just calls me Zachary. My last name's a little difficult. I added that because she just starts calling him Zachary-kun, and it's more common to go by someone's last name in Japan, so I just added that everyone just calls me Zachary, like he wants to be called by his first name. That just is one little plot hole. And I also went into more detail on the look of the cafe and the look of the bookstore. So I made the panels bigger so I could add more detail in there, because this is also an important place. This is where a lot of the story takes place. Okay, and then this part is the same. She's just saying thank you and walks away, and he says anytime. I did add a tiny thing where the cafe worker is looking at Zachary because he notices that Zachary has a crush on her. You can see it, and he's going, what? He's like flustered. So I think it adds a lot to Zachary's character already. You can tell he is interested in Tenchi. She's falling asleep. And this is also the same. He wakes her up because they're about to close. There's a close-up of her eyes, and she's running away. So that's exactly the same. Oh no, I have to get back home. This is also the same. She's running down the street. I changed it from Amaya-sama to Omaya-san. I made this bigger so you can see their house a bit better. The stepmom, she looks much better, of course. But I did change the dialogue a little bit here. So reading books, you're gonna get me in trouble, brat. I changed that because she doesn't really care about being in trouble. Like, literally, she does not care whether or not Tenchi is gone, other than that she wants control over Tenchi, and she wants Tenchi to take care of the house so she doesn't have to. And this is pretty much the same. I'm sorry, Amaya-san. She says go upstairs to your room without dinner. Here I put, since you've decided to abandon your chores, it looks like you won't be eating tonight. Go upstairs to your room, brat. This is all pretty much the same, where she's explaining her situation of her dad being on a business trip and leaving after they just moved and having Amaya watch her. He wants me to get to know her, but I think I know her better than he does. I changed it to, unfortunately, I had to be the one to find out what she's really like. So it's not much of a change, but some dialogue changes make me feel better, like it's more natural. I also added her as a angel here, because before it was showing her broken wing with every reason that she had a broken wing. She's shy. It's also because of her evil stepmom that's keeping her from flying, so I wanted to add that in there. Okay, and this is where she gets partnered up as a study partner. It's exactly the same dialogue right here with the teacher. And this is exactly the same. This is also exactly the same. That's right, I sit next to the scary red-eyed guy. Then I just have a little close-up of her flinching and preparing to talk to him because she's nervous. Here we go. She's trembling a little bit in this version. I did try to add more emotion in her face here. Forget it, I can't do it. What is it? And then a close-up of Akuma's face. That's exactly the same. When she asks him to be her study partner, there's just a close-up of her hands fidgeting. It takes a while for her to like actually ask him. And I changed the dialogue here. He says, either way, we don't really have a choice now, do we? And here he says, it doesn't really matter if I want to. Do we have a choice? So it's just a small changes, not that significant. What's your favorite place around here? The bookstore, I guess. Then we'll meet there every day at 4:30 p.m. Fair enough. And he says, any places around here that you prefer to go? Instead of what's your favorite place around here? Maybe the bookstore? Like she's kind of confused why he's asking. Then we'll meet there after school at 4:30. Got it? So I added got it just to show his, he's more aggressive. And this is the same too, where she's trying to get his name. Next scene, which is pretty similar in the panel. This is where Vera-chan comes with her friends. This is, in this version, this is the first time you hear about her friends. In this version, I built it up a little bit. So first, we don't know who's calling her name. And then they appear. It's me, Vero, my friends are here today. So she mentioned her friends before, so it's a little more natural for them to come into this scene, and we already know this is where they usually sit. Then they introduce themselves, and then we get a shot of all of them together. They're sitting down with her. That's not present here, but I think it gives you an idea of where everyone is in the scene. Can we sit with you? Of course. This is the same, but I changed Vera-chan's expression here from being embarrassed to being more excited, because that's just her personality. Kai is the one that Vera-chan ends up with later, so I did add this little tiny panel of Tenchi wondering who Kai is, because he does come up later. So what did you do in class today, Tenchi-chan? I changed her expression a bit, and then everything else is the same. Is it a boy? Is he cute? What's his name? His name is Akuma Kimura. That's exactly the same. This part's the same. And then Vera-chan talks about Akuma. So, well, we can all agree he's hot as hell. So they all know that he's really good looking. But he has a bad reputation among the school. Here she says, well, lots of girls think he's super hot, but he's mean and weird. So I just changed the dialogue a little bit. And it goes into the reasons. He beat up a kid on his first day of school. That's the same here. He insensitively rejects every girl that confesses their feelings to him. I added another panel where she's crying and running away to show his effect on her and how he's just really mean. And the last reason, he doesn't know many modern words or terms. I said he doesn't seem to understand modern slang. I didn't like the example from this one. What's up, dude? This guy. What kind of stupid question is that? And my name's not dude. To me, that was really cringy. So I changed that. I added 2 examples. You're totally an ikemen. What did you call me? So ikemen is supposed to be a compliment. I even put that down here. And he doesn't understand it, so he's angry. Here again, he's getting a compliment, but he gets angry. So I think those are a little bit better examples. Tenchi is not feeling well after hearing that. And then Zachary comes in. Yeah, there's just a little difference there. And this part is the same. Okay, this part I did extend the dialogue. So he says, you ran away so quickly, were you alright? That's the same here. And she is saying she's afraid her parents were worried. That's the same. But in this one, he says, it's good to hear you're okay. And he kind of has that kind of creepy vibe going. And then she asks if they can meet at the bookstore. So that whole conversation was very awkward, and Zachary comes off as creepy. I wanted Zachary to show that he's actually a really good guy, and he actually really likes her. So I extended this. He goes, I'm glad you're okay. And he's flustered because he likes her and he wants to help her. So he says, you know, if you ever need anything, you can ask me, okay? And she's realizing that he's really actually very nice. Like, you could see on her face, like, she's surprised that he wants to help her. And he says, I know we just met and all, but you're a new student, so that's really an excuse. He likes her. He just wants to help her. And so this is the reason why she can bring up the favor. She wants her study partner, her and her study partner, to meet at the bookstore, so she asks him for that favor. She doesn't just suddenly ask out of the blue. And he gets really excited, like, because he wants to see her. So he says, you mean like every day? And he has that cute, excited expression. So I think that adds a lot into his character from before, where he just came off as creepy. He says, sure, you can. It sounds nice seeing you every day. So he's blushing, he's shy, he has a crush. So I wanted to change that because I didn't do his character justice in the first chapter. And we move on to the next scene, which is pretty much the same. It's Tenchi asking for permission from her stepmom to go out with her study partner. Just the artwork is better, the perspective is better. This part is also the same pretty much, just the panels are bigger. I have to go to the post office, so I won't be here for a while. Pretty much the same. Zachary telling her that she can be in the cafe with her study partner, and then he leaves and she is nervous after what she heard from Vero-chan. That's exactly the same. This panel of the door opening, that's exactly the same. This part's the same, where they make eye contact when Akuma walks in and she gulps. And there's just silence. And she's the first one to speak. She says hi. And you can see I did trace the backgrounds from before because I thought they looked pretty good. Especially this background. This background I really liked, where you could see where the cafe and the bookstore connect. You can really see like the layout of the bookstore. So I traced that part too and just added cleaner lines. Akuma looks much bigger though. Look girl, I don't need this study partner crap, so if you need help, ask me so I can leave. Pretty much the same, but she does think I'm surprised he even showed up. Because it is kind of surprising. And then she asks for help on her math homework, which is the same thing. This part is the same too. I really was bothered by her face right there before. I think it looks so much better now. And I really liked how before I had the backgrounds. Like, this background looked pretty nice. It was looking through the window at the cafe. I just added some more detail to the cafe over here. And I added a panel where the sun is going down because it's actually becoming nighttime. They've been there for a while. That's not in this one. So you don't know that it's nighttime. But this part looks the same. This is the same. I think his face, his expression was a little bit overly dramatic or too exaggerated. So you can still see he's surprised here, but it's not so dramatic looking. This part looks the same. And then we have Zachary show up here. I'm back, Ito-san. Hey, I'm Ito-san, I'm back. Is everything going okay? He's just checking up on her. And then this part is the same, but I really like how I did Zachary's expression, and even Tenchi's. I think they're more exaggerated there where they need to be. Okay, and this part bothered me too, because Zachary's just in Akuma's face, and he's just really obnoxious. So I understand why people didn't really like Zachary. He just kind of came off as obnoxious sometimes, or creepy. So I did, he still is, but he's saying this to Tenchi, directed at Akuma. And Akuma can hear it clearly, of course. You sure you'll be alright studying with this guy? If he's mean to you, let me know. He's telling it to Tenchi. And here he says, if he makes you cry, tell me and I'll be glad to teach him a lesson. I think that's kind of cringy. I just changed it to, if he's mean to you, let me know. And what are you gonna do, Val cried. This part's the same. He slams on the table. He says, I'm leaving. Zachary calls his name. That's the same. Can you walk Ida-san home for me? He looks more angry and very unwilling to ask. Do me a favor, walk Ida-san home for me. So he's more stubborn about it, I think, in that kind of dialogue. And also, you can see his thoughts. I can't believe I'm asking him out of all people. So you can see he really doesn't want to ask Akuma. Akuma says, you just treated me like a monster and now you're asking me to walk a girl home. Do it yourself. I didn't really like that dialogue. I don't think it fit him very well. Here he says, oh, playing the hero again, are you? If you're so worried, do it yourself. There's no evidence that they met before in the old version. But in this version, you can see they already know each other. And that's in a flashback later in the story. But he's kind of mocking him for playing a hero. And then Zachary says, it's dangerous for girls to walk home by themselves, especially when it's dark and I have to work. I can't. This whole panel I split up into several panels, actually. So you can see the characters better, like their emotions. So he says, it's not about me. It's seriously dangerous for girls to walk alone at night, especially a small girl like Ida-san. I have to work, otherwise I would. And he turns to look at her in a very genuine kind of way. And you can see that he really wants to walk her home. And she feels like he's actually a really good person. Here, you can't really see that. And then there's even more here where he's like, she'll be fine. And Zachary's angry and she is getting kind of anxious because of the things escalating. So you can see the tension there a lot better. Okay, and here he's like, you're not a man if you can't even walk a girl home. And he says, don't touch me. You don't care about anyone but yourself. And he grabs his shirt. So I didn't like that he grabbed his shirt before. I think that was a little over the top. Here he says, you really are petty if you can't even walk a girl home. He says, don't touch me. And I think it was enough for him to just be leaving his hand on his shoulder when he said, don't touch me. You don't care about anyone, do you? You can see him turning around because he's angry and he's had enough. That's not in here. It just goes straight to him punching him with the uppercut. He turns around and then punches him. And I think this is a more natural pose for the way that they were positioned. And his bag drops. This part is the same. She's calling out Zachary-kun. She goes over to him. That's the same here. I used the same background too. Akuma is reaching for his bag that fell on the ground. Over here, you don't know that he dropped his bag. It just goes straight to him punching. But I did that kind of as a transition, like kind of things cooling down now. So he reaches down to get his bag. Alright, I'll walk the girl home. But only if you shut up and stay out of my way. Here he says that too. Kenshi is grabbing Zachary's shirt. Here she's reaching up to move his hand because she wants to see his wound, like if he's okay. And then this part I think is important. It gives insight into their relationship right now. She's scared, of course, after what just happened. He just punched Zachary. And she's thinking, well, he could do anything, like he doesn't care. So she's scared. And he has a cold expression and he just says, girl, let's go. He just says, let's go here. And you don't see that interaction between them, their eye contact. So I think I've gotten better at showing emotions through the eyes and close-ups. And here Zachary's being really creepy by pulling her in and saying it's okay. Like again, he's being a creeper. I changed it. Man, I looked really uncool just now. And she is very appreciative. You can see her hand moved his hand out of the way so that she could look at his wound. But she's appreciative that he did something for her sake. So she says thank you to him. And he returns her hand, which is much more natural and actually cute. This part was creepy. And this part's the same. Don't worry, he won't hurt you. And no one will think of coming near you with that guy around. And then this part is the same. That boyfriend of yours is an idiot. That's where he's walking her home. I did change the dialogue a little bit. He said, well, anyone could mistake you two for lovers, which to me sounded kind of awkward. Here he said, what, you're not a couple? He's even more pathetic than I thought. And by extending this dialogue, you get more insight into Zachary too. So he said, she said, before, we just met. I don't know him very well, but I know that he's a sweet person. Here, she says, we only just met, so I don't know him very well. Maybe he's a bit reckless, but he's definitely not pathetic. So you can see, like, they realize Zachary is a reckless guy, but he's not a pathetic guy. He stands up for what he believes in. And she says, I know he's a good person. Then she mentions about how it seemed like they knew each other already, which was not present in the old one. There was like no reason to believe that they already knew each other, but here she says, it seems like you two knew each other already. He's very stubborn and doesn't want to acknowledge the guy, so he says, I don't know anybody. Then she says, well, I guess since we're study partners, we'll get to know each other then. And here she just went from saying, I don't know him very well, I don't know you very well either. So the dialogue, it's been extended. And then he says, you wouldn't want to, which is the same. And then that's when I noticed it. So here I added a bit more. Akuma's eyes were like mine, is what it said before. There was sadness in them. Here it says, his eyes told me everything I needed to know. There was sadness in them, just like mine. And you can see both of them with their broken wings, which I think is much more impactful. That wasn't shown here at all. Akuma had a broken wing too. So then it goes to that, which is the same. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. That was about 70 something pages long compared to before, which was 38 pages long. So you can see I stretched it out a lot. I think I did justice to Zachary's character compared to before, especially. Zachary came off as very creepy before. And Tenchi, you couldn't really see how she was feeling or thinking during a lot of scenes, so I added a lot more to Tenchi too. If you feel like it's worth it, I would say go for it. It's a lot of work for the amount that I did, but I think if you have improved enough, you can see the difference. So thank you so much